Nintendo put absolutely huge effort into promoting Pikmin 4, especially in Japan, and their efforts seem to have paid off, with that game receiving record sales for the series, and the little Pikmin are now highly visible alongside other core Nintendo franchises like Animal Crossing and Splatoon at Nintendo stores, on the Nintendo Music logo, and more. The potential for Pikmin to break big through film, television, or other merchandise has to be significant, but there is one Rubicon that remains uncrossed: a truly successful Pikmin spin-off. Shigeru Miyamoto would certainly be game. Interviewed recently by IGN in conjunction with the new Orlando park, he said of Pikmin, "I spent a lot of time on the past 5-6 years really wanting to grow Pikmin. Obviously, a lot of that is focused around Pikmin Bloom, and there was also new Pikmin titles that released. But I wanted to see if there's other ways that we can have people engage and get to know Pikmin that's outside of the population that plays video games. For example, it really stems back to 20 years ago when we did a presentation where it starts off with, there's a Pikmin next to you. And so in Nintendo, there's sort of like an unwritten rule. Mario needs to stay in the Mario universe, or Splatoon needs to stay in Splatoon. And we don't use different characters in the same place. But Pikmin has this kind of unwritten rule where they're okay to appear with other characters. I really see Nintendo as sort of like a talent agency, and we have within our roster a lot of talented characters. So we create a game with a certain gameplay concept, gameplay experience, and then we look at the roster to see who would best fit this gameplay concept or experience. So looking at things from that perspective, I think Pikmin has a lot of potential to be used in many different occasions. But when you're looking at small kids, they have a certain appeal for things that are cute, and when they grow older, maybe in their 20s, they start to lose appeal for that. But I think Pikmin has this unique ability to have appeal across a broad range, in that it's still appealing for both younger audiences and older audiences, and in Japan. And so I'm hoping that we can expand that globally. So whether it's some kind of a movie or show, things like that will be really fun. End Shigeru Miyamoto's quotes. Evidently, at the end, he's discussing the potential outside games, but for the purposes of this video, I think his comments could still give us insight into how the franchise may be used for Pikmin spin-offs as well. We have seen a fair bit of diversity in Pikmin's uses over the years, but not everything Nintendo has done has taken off. Sure, the mobile effort Pikmin Bloom was seemingly well supported in Japan at least, and seemed to do its job in promoting the Pikmin to a wider audience, with regular tie-in events being noted. Also, Hey Pikmin in 2017 did give the 3DS a bit of Pikmin-related playability, while there was a brief and now departed Pikmin Finder app tested in 2024 that allows you to hunt out and view Pikmin hiding in your surroundings. But whereas Metroid has both 2D and Prime flavors, Animal Crossing is evergreen and also has the Happy Home Designer sub-game to increase its gaming footprint, Pikmin has never truly managed to find its second-string game to support it long-term. I do think this will be a priority for Nintendo because, while I don't expect further decade-plus intervals between mainline Pikmin entries, especially with 18 seemingly ensconced as co-developers after Pikmin 3 Deluxe and their heavy assist work on Pikmin 4, Nintendo still won't want to be banging these out all that often. I could see two per generation, perhaps in 2027 and 2031, if Nintendo can settle into a 4-year schedule, but that's the absolute max. If they want Pikmin to be more permanent as a presence in people's hearts, and a more permanent assailant to people's wallets, they will need to diversify their gaming offerings. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that Switch 2 is the prime venue for these kinds of game experiences. While Pikmin Finder didn't do that well, Pikmin Bloom seemingly remains popular, and it seems like augmented reality functionality is a great fit for Pikmin, as it's set in the tiny crevices around the real world. Switch 2's capability for AR, though, is mixed. On the one hand, it is easily achievable with the top-facing USB port, allowing for a camera to be plugged in. On the other hand, this would alienate docked players in a way that Nintendo might not wish to do, or certainly not in the first year or two of the system at any rate. Perhaps as a Switch 2 Lite exclusive title, this would make a bit more sense, but that's not something that Nintendo have historically wanted to pursue. A mobile phone app, therefore, feels like the right kind of way that they might exploit AR technology, but since just going around and seeing Pikmin in the environment didn't exactly thrill in Pikmin Finder, it might be a while before we see a more evolved augmented reality Pikmin proposition. There is also, of course, the prospect of going back to ye olde reliable 2D platformer with another Hey Pikmin or a game that is similar. Look, Hey Pikmin might not have set the world ablaze, but it wasn't hated either, and a cheapy port, perhaps by Forever Entertainment for the original Switch, might be exactly the kind of half-hearted sign of indifferent apathy to make Pikmin's hardcore fans feel like their situationship with the franchise is not totally one-sided. Still, its 69 score on Metacritic makes it a tricky proposition for Nintendo, as it's hardly an auspicious starting point, and they may find the effort of fixing it a case of the juice not being worth the squeeze, especially given that developers Arzest have moved on and recently worked on Sonic Superstars. Now, I wouldn't totally rule out Hey Pikmin, but if we're going to get speculative, let's aim a little higher, shall we? So first, we need to understand how Nintendo approaches spin-off games in the first place. There are examples that we commonly see in Mario where they have a mechanic that they want to utilize, and so they need to make it saleable and therefore put what Miyamoto would consider one of their talent agency prospects on the front of it. This is often very explicit, hence Picross was sold first as Mario's Picross. But Pikmin isn't really strong enough a name for that to be worthwhile. Another type of spin-off comes from external pitches. Both Hyrule Warriors and Cadence of Hyrule were external pitches to Nintendo. However, I don't see people queuing round the block with Pikmin ideas, at least not in a scale compared to other franchise pitches which Nintendo are almost certainly batting away. That leaves a third type, which are bespoke and custom-made expansions, closer to what we see with Happy Home Paradise. This, in a way, is the most interesting because it suggests a custom-built expansion of aspects already innate to Pikmin gameplay. We've already discussed how AR could fit in, but I also think Pikmin is relatively unique in fitting so squarely into the pure strategy genre among Nintendo's offerings, and I wonder if there's a potential for a variant on the title that emphasizes different aspects. Perhaps a game where the core mechanic involves gardening, or some kind of strategy title closer in spirit to SimCity, where you establish Pikminopolis or something. One unlikely but interesting concept would be to transplant Pikmin to 2D again, but with an emphasis more on the puzzle aspect. Many franchises have both 2D and 3D series concurrently because they existed since before the mid-90s made polygonal home gaming a possibility, but I can't think of an example of a title that's gone in the other direction while trying to remain broadly true to the gameplay style. Hey Pikmin is probably about the closest, but it's clearly a different title in certain key respects. However, I'm always reminded of the classic title Lemmings, the 1991 classic where you have to assign roles to lemmings to guide them to safety before they plunge to their death. With this precedent, it seems like a Pikmin game could function very well in short, side-scrolling courses, and this is Nintendo's bread and butter. Nobody does a side-scroller like they do. All that said, is there much benefit in creating a Pikmin spin-off that is too close to the style of the original title, just with one fewer dimension? Perhaps not. At this point, I think it's worth returning to Miyamoto's comments about having Pikmin able to cross different franchises as well. So here is a weird concept. A lot of people have looked for some Nintendo version of achievements, but what if Nintendo put Pikmin into every one of their first-party titles as Easter eggs, like Hitchcock appearing in every film, or, for I guess a more modern version, Stan Lee's many movie cameos? They wouldn't even need to announce that they are doing it. Mario Kart World could easily have a Pikmin hidden away somewhere, and it would be easy to imagine at least some oblique reference in Donkey Kong Bonanza. Once they turn up in Jamboree TV, and perhaps if there's an Olimar comic book somewhere in Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, well, now people are going to start realizing that this is not just a coincidence, but an actual thing that Pikmin are cameoing all across Nintendo's games, and then Nintendo could launch an app where you can use Nintendo's photo mode to make a Pikmin album. The potential then exists to spin this off into a full Pikmin hunting game. Children of the 1990s may remember how Sonic & Knuckles used lock-on technology, allowing you to shove Sonic 3 into the top of the game cartridge to make one super game. However, it also allows you to play Sonic 2 with Knuckles, and other games allowed you to do a gauntlet of special stages. It was cool at the time, and remains innovative and quirky today, although largely forgotten. But what if Nintendo launched a Pikmin title that was, in essence, a lock-on game, where you can pair it with other select Nintendo titles? So, if you play it and then choose to combine it with Super Mario Bros. Wonder, you can play Super Mario Bros. Wonder, but it will add in Pikmin in random places. With Breath of the Wild, there'll be Pikmin. Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe, Pikmin. Advance Wars, Pikmin. Astral Chain, Pikmin. Well, maybe Nintendo will be cautious about allowing cameos on too broad an age range of products, but then again, Miyamoto did comment that he foresaw them having a broad age range appeal compared to other franchises, so who knows. One variant of this concept is hooking it into game chat, so that if one person plays a game, a group of friends can all be watching the same game footage, but with mouse pointers at the ready to click on the Pikmin that will emerge at random intervals. Even better if the game chat screen were to cut from player to player, so that each person has a mix of Pikmin hunting and playing their own non-Pikmin title. Obviously, this feels more like an NSO feature in the vein of F099, but as a way to backdoor advertise a lot of different first-party games, it seems hard to top. Which seems like a good a segue as any to talk about those classic bolt-in formats. I've discussed before the many standard formats like 99, Warriors, Maker that seem to be returned to in multiple different franchises. Now, Pikmin 99 will be awesome, but seems a little difficult to imagine, while a Pikmin Maker would make Arlo deliriously happy, but doesn't necessarily mean it would work as a standalone title. And Pikmin Warriors, while a hilarious concept, also seems quite difficult to clue into. So what is the future for Pikmin spin-offs? I still reckon we'll see one sometime this generation, if only an online title or a smart device game. It probably makes most sense to be something in the vein of a puzzler, although I wouldn't rule out some kind of AR twist. As for the next few years though, perhaps a Pikmin 4 Deluxe Plus game soon and Pikmin 5 in a couple of years will be sufficient to keep Louis on mission for a while longer at least. Make sure to drop your wildest Pikmin spin-off concepts into the comments below, and thank you all for listening, and I shall look forward to seeing you next time for another Nintendo Forecast.